Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see. What was I going to say? I do not allow my energy to be held captive by anybody. What else? What you think or don't think about me is critical, as particularly as it relates to miasma and the inner child. Right? When I was a child, what am I map reading and everybody else? How much miasma is left to be cleared off? That's why when I realized when I was a child, I'm communicating with mama. Oh man, this is like cutting through deep rock. What is it going to take to cut through all this density? When you're a child doing something like that, then you begin to understand when you look through all my videos how we translate that mathematically, but what it really is when the videos that I've done about mapping universes, why they run out of energy. That's really what it is. And what it boils down to is the self-destructive use of technologies. I did a video one time when I was a child about what we call the acceleration of building a universe from the first eternal sun, which is eternal love. It's always on fire, right? And how fast you can accelerate a universe, because that is a faster state of consciousness and wants to recreate more of what it is giving love to that it's creating, right? That's basic common sense for anybody that's got a creator spirit in them. And so I'm very familiar with the battleground, which is why I'm not ever comfortable with going online, because I've met so many people that have come on to me with videos, and come to find out later on down the road that they aren't who they say they are, even though they're regurgitating the same information that we're already aware of. And why I've always said this many years, if I'm really going to get to know somebody, I think we would probably all agree about this. I would rather be next to you so I can feel you. All right, so my sensors are fully activated. Right? When I lit myself on fire, that's what happens. Remember how I described how that works? The amount of quantum energy, okay, to be able to rewind your timeline and then run it back forward to a magnetic moment, which is eternity, is an enormous amount of quantum energy between density and dimension. Everything that we were transmuting as special forces teams from the moment I came in here in 51, right? That's an enormous amount of dead energy when you're one, when you're a monad, right? So we're still at it. That's why I'm on this island. This place is full of dead energy. That's why it was a stronghold, right? So it does have everything to do with breathing and the kind of water you're breathing with and the kind of air you're breathing. So there's a lot of miasma on the island that people are breathing. Okay. That's why when I got here, this is one of the ways you can measure density. For example, when I was up at about 9,000 feet in the San Gabriel Mountains, you know how electrical density altitude is, right? That means I was getting rid of waste product at a higher level of density speed, which is circulation speed of what we put in and what comes out. That's induction or input. Just like on a fire engine. You got an intake, hook it up to a hydrant. Now you got a water supply. That's the same thing as an energy supply, as a self-generating monad. Okay. Right? But what it means on top of a mountain is that I was having a bowel movement on average about 4 to 5 times a day, actually before noon. I usually get up right at the crack of dawn, right? Circadian rhythm. Hey, sun comes up, I'm up. And so when I get to this island, because of the level of density, which is compression, that units of consciousness that represents a formation, because they're running so dense, because they're compressing their cells to implode, right? Then it realized that I'm not taking it. Here I was taking 4 bowel movements a day, and then I jump on a plane, and now I'm not moving it once a day. But my diet hasn't changed, which means what I'm putting in hasn't changed. It's the fact that the density speed and circulation speed and the speed at which we're getting rid of waste product that has everything to do with breathing. Breathing speed, gate speed, right? Breathing in and out, the energy we're breathing out, right? And so I thought that was important because it comes to me that I share these things. This is like I used to just keep a journal, self-review. It's like a student. You know, when I was going to the University of Arkansas, I thought this is a pretty good idea that they're starting to introduce to teachers, training teachers to work with children, and they call self-directed learning, which means we're not going to program you, okay? Which means we're going to put all this into your memory, and then you're going to run it in the future, past, back to the future, right? Because you're battery slaves for a Metatronic corporation working for the military. That was why they set up all the schools for that. And this was all pre-programmed millions of years ago. That's why the activations are occurring when the activations occur. These activations, between what they activate and we activate, this has been on the back burner for millions and millions of years. That's why we're all here for the last dance. That's right. Right? And so I just try and keep it simple, right? I am what love is. The inner child works in me just fine. I'm still like a little kid that loves to have fun, loves to play music, and loves to create. And that really is important. That's what allows you to stay ahead of the curve of dead light or artificial light, is the fact that when you're moving at a higher rate of speed, right, then you're writing at a higher rate of speed, which means what you're recording, by virtue of the energy that you're using to experience who you are, which is eternal love, is naturally writing a permanent record that is a teacher and a student's record, which is self-directed learning. That's called cell-directed learning. So I'm experiencing what the spirits in the cells are experiencing, because they're experiencing my spirit, which is what love is. It's on fire. So we're always on fire. And that fire is a CQ. So you begin to realize the more creative you are, the more on fire you are, the more the head of the curve that you are of something that is running at a slower rate of speed. That means that you're recording your own timeline, because there isn't anybody that can insert anything in your timeline because you're writing too fast. That's why they don't know where you're next. You're wherever light is. You're wherever love is. Wherever love is and living spirit is where we are. And that's perfectly normal, which is called a natural state. A natural spiritual state of energy to be in is to experience being what love is. So you know you're with the first son that is eternal love, because it's unconditional, which means it doesn't require a charge. That's who we are. We don't charge you for energy. That's why everything that I put up, I have what's called an aversion. Okay? I don't sell myself. Anything that I ever created, I'm not going to market that. I'll just give it away. Just like, have you ever noticed when people go to a market, for example, like today, I'll give you an example. I went to the store and I was looking for Goya, because they don't have all the emulsifiers, all the junk in there, which is all low density, food density stuff, right? In other words, you're running lower density Metatronic coded stuff through your system, through your computer, Bobfield computer, right? So you don't want to run lower density codes, right, that representing dead codes, dead light, heavy water codes. No, right? That's why I've been fasting most of the time now, ever since I went on a 7-day fast. When was that? A month or so ago, whenever I announced it, because there isn't any time, so I don't keep track of time, because there's only what love is. And so, yeah, where was I? See? Doesn't matter, right? That's the beauty of it. You know, no batteries required, no memory required. You're always in creative mode. What do you want to experience next? Whatever it is going to be what love is. That's the genius. That is the beauty, because it's built in. Creation is built in. We are how it works. Because your creative speed is actually very important. Because you know that you're creating an original song. You're creating you're an original artist, is what it boils down to. You're original artist because of your recording speed. L phase. Remember? The signal on a Messerschmitt ME-109 during World War II, the L space, the four-way intersection, the four-way tetrahedron, right? Inside of a ball, inside of a sphere, which is a gyrodome, which is a gyro ball. Screw like in a cockpit, and you see it. right? You see the X, rudder trim, you know, sticking, what do they used to call stick and rudder, learning how to fly an airplane, right? Running trim, vertical and horizontal stabilizers, the gyro ball, right? In the United States Navy, when they land on carriers, they're way up top, and they got to land on a little tiny dot bobbing around in the ocean. It's always moving, right? And they got to be able to land their little plane on that little flat top, right? How they do that. My dad was showing me how they do that. And that wasn't a coincidence that I was learning how to do that when I was a little child. He sat me down with, if you've ever seen some of the old movies with the pilots, like during the Battle of Midway. Remember Midway, like in Midgard, like Inner Earth? And they used to have these little tabletop that when they sit in the cockpit with the stick in between their knees, right? They have this tray, and this tray is much like a compass bearing in degrees, coordinates, minutes, and time. Because they got to measure time and distance and vectors to figure out, hey, we're over the ocean. Everything looks the same over the water. How are they going to know to find something, you know, a little dot in the water? How are they going to find that? So my dad was showing me how to do that, how they were doing that inside an airplane, flying over the Pacific Ocean, right? In a Navy airplane, you know, a prop. You know, my dad flew, just for sake of reference. I love my dad, obviously, okay? I could tell you a lot of beautiful stories about my father, but he was a pilot before World War II broke out, and he went to Rensselaer Polytechnic University. Then he went to go to work for Grumman Aircraft, which supplied most of the aircraft to the United States Navy. And so he saw the writing on the wall. So he was flying airplanes for Grumman Aircraft and delivering them to the Pensacola Naval Flight Center down there in Florida. And so he saw the writing on the wall. So he went to U.S. Navy since he was already a licensed pilot. I believe they made him a first lieutenant. He went through Pensacola. His first orders were the Yorktown. Yeah, Yorktown, the one that was sunk at Midway, actually. But my dad was off duty. He was at home when that happened. So he got new orders. And that led to Operation Torch. And then he went to be on the East Airstrip with the Leathernecks, United States Marine Corps. Right. So then my dad was flying F-6F Hellcats with VHS Squadron 27. That's my memories. And that's a 9, isn't it? And he took a 20 millimeter right through the side of the cockpit and tore out part of his knee and bled like a stuck pig. But he knew where to land that plane. He had to be there. You realize that, don't you? Even though he hit that 20 millimeter, came through the side of that cockpit. Okay, when they found my dad in that cockpit, they couldn't understand. He was unconscious from loss of blood. When they yanked him out of the cockpit, they don't understand how he made what's called a dead stick landing. Okay, because if you didn't already know this, okay, my dad had to make it. Because I came through my dad's seed by the seed that he delivered to my biological mother, because I picked both of them as my parents. See how that works? My father was the most peaceful man I ever knew, even though he'd been to combat. He was. That's why when both of them passed away, I cried like a little baby. As a matter of fact, I still feel that. You know what it means down here to feel it in your gut. You know, the emotional. You feel it in your gut. Because of people that you love so much in your heart that you cared about, right? Because they cared about you and they were always looking out for you because you know that they really loved you. In other words, they don't, you know, it's one thing to tell people what love is and say, yeah, I love you too, right? And this is when you get into all the fakery stuff. What we used to call surface talk. You know what surface tension is, right? We used to do this when we were children. They're just play actors. They're playing like they know what love is. They talk the talk, right? Now, remember the old saying, they walk like a duck, they talk like a duck, they know our language because of where we're at, because of how long this has been on the back burner. So they already know all this. They know how to talk like us and how to walk like this and how to look like us, which means they can walk like a duck, talk like a duck, look like a duck. But they're not a duck. And the best way to know a real duck is to feel a duck. Now you know it's a real duck because now you can feel the energy, which is the consciousness that is running the software. That's right. The consciousness, which is the solar arcing, which